I appreciate it. I'm like, I feel so well protected.
I know.
Little did we know this glass is bulletproof.
I think so. It was nice seeing people so excited today. And you have the temptation to want to run up.
Yeah.
You gotta
Yes.
stop.
No, it's a very, I feel like the people that you're used to hugging, the things to do with their hands when they see each other. It's like series of like, I would hug you.
Okay, you're all set. All right, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. March 8th, 2021, Special Board of Education meeting and open session workshop, where we will focus this special session, open session workshop on the opening schools update. And we'll go ahead and hand it over to Dr. Jenkins.
Okay, thank you so much, Chair Reyes. I'm just bursting with excitement about what we observed down in our schools today. And we have with us our Chief of Elementary Schools, both Dr. Clarity and Ms. Stanford, and they're going to go over what's actually happening in the schools as we're preparing. It's a lot of energy, high energy out there right now throughout our district. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Stanford and Dr. Clarity to present our reopening.
Good evening, everyone. We are very excited to be able to present to you this evening around a lot of the highlights of the excitement, the creativity, the collaboration, and what's been happening in our buildings to prepare for reopening. We are beyond excited to welcome our kindergartners back in person tomorrow. And again, we know that we've gone over some of our technical pieces and other things with reopening previously. And tonight, what we really want to highlight are the things that schools have done to really, again, welcome and make sure that this is not only a safe, but an enjoyable reopening where we see that our schools are prepared, that the staff is excited, and that we're ready to rock and roll. We are truly ready to welcome our kids back tomorrow. So Barb, if you could pull up the slide deck. You can go ahead to that second slide. We really wanted to kick the meeting off tonight with, again, talking about creativity. So we know that there are a lot of things that we have to go over as far as like the safety measures that schools are teaching to students, but this school, Franklin Elementary School, with Principal Silla, and also it was created by Maria Loy, their culture and climate coach, really took a great creative, joyful way to talk about what students are going to have to do in order to make sure that they are remaining safe in the building, sanitizing, and I'm not doing a great job explaining it, and so we're going to let the video speak for itself, and we just want to take a few minutes just to view this video.
Can't touch this. Can't touch this. Can't touch this. COVID hits me so hard, a teacher said, oh my Lord, COVID, and everything of everything from the seas. Lights off, it can't be found. I've looked all around the town I had. No luck, and these are things that you touch. I told you, Falcon, you better pull that master. It's the CDC doctor, not me. Hey, go wash your hands. Cause you rules and plans all these things. Go wash your hands, don't move. Back up 6 feet, you better not talk, but you let it off, need attention. Hold on, let me check your check now under your arm, like that. Like that, you're all clear, go to your class. Everybody says this is too much, and these are things you can't touch. Hey, I told you. Why else on the rise. Now why would I ever stop doing this while others can do? I wanna be first, but then in all the classes from upstairs into the gym. Missy Casey, Missy 60 is heartfelt and we fan. Can't touch this. Break it
So
down.
bad.
60.
So again, just tremendous gratitude and appreciation for what leaders and staff are doing to bring creativity and also joy just to this time of us preparing for reopening. And so we wanted to be able to share that with you today. And so again, thanks to Franklin staff, their principal, and their culture and climate coach, Maria Loy, for that video. That video was also shared with, of course, with students and then with staff during their staff meeting as well. So thank you. We're going to go ahead. Next slide, please, Barb. And we just wanted to highlight some of the things, again, that schools are doing. So really around the themes of joy, intentionality, and partnership. So there was a great deal of partnership in order for us to have this reopening take place and be successful, because we already know it's going to be successful tomorrow. And we couldn't do it alone. So just the partnership with community partners, with central office staff, with the board, with the community, with parents, staff, teachers, and principals. And so again, we've had staff professional development that has taken place, and they've also had staff resources for concurrent teaching. There's a great deal of family outreach that has been done. So from our Zoom drop-in sessions, individual school websites that have videos, again, that are preparing students for being welcomed back into the building. But in addition to that, we also want to make sure that we are also recognizing those students that will continue to learn virtually. And so they're doing a lot of things around relationship building, but also a lot of the safety measures that they have been teaching. And you'll see some slides of this later on around like how to wear a mask or again, sanitizing. Those are things that we are also making sure that students are doing at home as well. And so they're learning together as both in-person students that will be returning and virtual students as well. We also were able to highlight last week the returning preference mini app and a lot of the equity pivots that we were able to make. And so that is from the knocking on the doors that happened that weekend to being able to have the hotline available for students, for parents to call in and ask questions and also to receive assistance if they wanted in filling out that app. We're very, very pleased that we were able to work with HR to secure 2 floating subs per building. Those subs will be available to assist with transition of students, and they will be in the classroom, helping in any way that the teachers need help. And as we phase in additional grades, those subs will then go to that grade level that is phasing in. Central office support has been tremendous. So we have over 95 people from central office that will be deployed out into our schools to welcome again students back. So that is happening throughout our phase-in process. And so that will start tomorrow. They have been assigned schools. Leaders have been able to give them their assignments if it's going to be recess duty or welcoming students at the bus or whatever a classroom teacher might need in their room for the day. We, again, have had over 95 staff members from central office that have signed up to take part in that. We also have secondary principals and secondary staff that will be joining us during the reopening process as well. And so they will also be in our buildings and helping, again, in any way that is needed for us to have a successful reopening. Community partner support, PTO and student appreciation for staff. And so we saw last week, a lot of our PTOs got together when staff re-entered buildings last week. They had snacks for staff. They were able to assist schools with any school supplies that might be needed. They were able to help teachers with any of the work that they might need to complete to get their rooms ready. And so we saw a lot of support from our PTOs. Student appreciation as well. You'll see a picture of this later on in the slide deck, but we know that at Crestwood, their students got together, they made thank you notes for the teachers. They put thank you notes on the windows and on the doors, just letting them know how much they appreciated the work that they have been doing to prepare for reopening. And also just in general, just appreciation for the work that has happened during virtual learning as well. Our district reopening website, we have been working on that to make sure that it is revamped and that it's not only accessible, but that parents are able to find information easily on the site and everything is located in one space. Our school walkthroughs and visits, and our emergency sub-license opportunities. So working with HR, we were able to get information out for those folks who want to be an emergency sub and be able to help out. We even have Dr. Jenkins as an emergency sub. So we are ready to go. When we say all hands on deck, we truly mean all hands on deck. We're going to continue to work with our disengaged students and making sure that those students, we know a lot of our students who might have been disengaged previously are going to be returning in person, but there might still be some students who are remaining virtual, and we're continuing to work and to problem solve around making sure that those students have access to learning. And really important are the roomies and the zoomies. You all might have heard of this before, but a lot of intentional work around the students who are in person, called the roomies, and the students that are remaining virtual, called the zoomies, doing a lot of things together for relationship building. They are doing buddies, they're doing lunch buddies, they're doing check-ins. And so again, working to make sure that we're maintaining those relationships and that the students that are remaining virtual are still connected to the classroom and what's happening in class. Next slide. We won't watch this video, but this is just another example. This is from Thoreau Elementary School. And this video is actually a day in the life of a Thoreau student. And so there's a staff member that is acting as the student and really going through what it looks like from the moment that student gets off the bus to how they enter, how they have their breakfast. And so it goes through the entire process from arrival to dismissal. And it was really a great way for parents and for students to be able to see what they are going to experience when they return to school. Next slide. Next slide. And this is just a lot of the technical pieces that we've talked about previously. And so with making sure that the rooms are prepared with the walkthroughs, you can see the classroom setup on the bottom picture there. The top picture is for K. And they also received examples of how they can set their room up for safety measures. We even have our mascots that are all ready to go with their mask on and everything to make sure that they're greeting students as well. And on the left-hand side is an Olson teacher that was interviewed, and she is talking about concurrent teaching and how that is going to work in her classroom. Next slide. And this slide is really all about appreciation. And I talked about that previously as one of the bullets. And so you'll see Crestwood that's there with the thank you notes from the students. A lot of our leaders as well had the welcome back snack table that they had to welcome back staff. They had welcome back bags with the PPE equipment as well as like a flower or little candy. This one has a plant. And then Lowell Elementary School is just there with their mascot and some of their staff members as well. And this is really showing the roomies and the zoomies from Van Heist, talking about unity and again, relationship building. This is on the left-hand side is Candace at Alice Elementary School. She interviewed discussing with the media how they made sure that Alice was ready for reopening. There's another example here of alternative seating. And so we know that things are going to look different, but we also want things to be fun when students come back in as well. And so that's alternative seating that we have there. So there are yoga mats, lap desks, and different things that students can, different areas that students can choose to be seated, excuse me. Next slide. We also want to make sure that while we're talking about 4K through second grade reopening, that our 3rd through 5th grade schools are also still preparing and still making sure that their students and their staff are aware of what's going on. So here's an example at Marquette Elementary School. They had Fun Friday as Mask Day. And what they did is their students wore their mask on their Zooms for that day to get used to wearing the mask, but also just to be sure that they're still continuing to talk about the safety precautions. The picture next to that is the shark and with his mask, and they also had a wear your mask to virtual school day and be like the shark. Highlighting again, another school that did a tip of the day. So every day there was a different tip for parents to be able to read and work with their students on to prepare them for reopening. Lapham Elementary School, welcoming their kindergartners back from their bulletin boards, to welcome the red frogs and the roomies, and then also Lakeview Elementary School with their mascot as well. They had their kindergarten families attend a virtual open house. And their 1st and 2nd grade families as well attend a virtual open house, but they also created a video that parents were able to view prior to coming to the open house, and they could have their questions answered from those videos or just any general questions that they might have around reopening. Next slide. So then what's our next steps? So we have all of this great work that's been done again in preparing for 4K through 2nd grade reopening. And now we are in the 2nd phase of planning for 3rd through 5th grade and the secondary phase in process. And when we're making that decision around when that's going to happen, we're going to learn from the 4K through 2nd grade and what happened. We are also continuing to monitor the health metrics. And most importantly, we are looking at what are going to be the impacts to transportation, food service, and childcare as we phase in additional grades. And we're doing that planning along with our principal group and with MTI. But most importantly, what we're getting ready for and what we're preparing for and what we're excited about is celebrating our kindergartners tomorrow. And so that is where our focus is for tomorrow. Again, we're going to continue to look at our planning and finalize our planning for what will 3rd through 5th grade and secondary phase in look like. But tomorrow is all about our kindergarten scholars. Barb, that is the last slide. Questions? Any questions or clarifications?
Okay, Chris.
Carlisha, thank you so much for walking us through kind of how our schools are creating social distancing and what that means for our students. And also thank you very much for closing by welcoming our kindergartners. I think, you know, the preparations and work that our teachers or something have done to make tomorrow happen is something we have to be incredibly grateful for. So I want to thank our educators and you for all the work you've done. We've been talking about walkthroughs at the elementary school level long term. And I guess I'm wondering what it's looked like to identify areas in which we want to strengthen social distancing or sanitation and address on an individual school basis the specific needs of each school.
So thank you for that question. I'm going to ask Karen or Deirdre regarding the walkthroughs to address that.
Thanks, Carletra. Hey, Karen, how you doing? Karen and I are the walkthrough buddies. I'll start just a little bit and I'll let Karen sort of jump in here, but obviously we've been doing walkthroughs throughout this planning phase, and we have seen so many good things about our schools and their readiness. I think Ali, your question about sort of next steps, we are going to continue doing walkthroughs and our audits and supporting our schools and our staff. But I think some of the things that you're talking about, we won't really know until we get into those spaces and we have adults in those spaces and we see how things are moving. But again, we've learned a lot from MSCR. We've had opportunities to be in all of those school environments with our MSCR staff, and they've shared a lot of their learning and wisdom, and our students are picking up very quickly on the expectations as well as staff. So we're going to continue to support our schools to go in and continue our walkthroughs and our check-ins and provide support as we continue to reopen. I'll pause there and see if Karen has additional items or information that she wants to add.
Excellent. Thank you, Deirdre. You did a nice job, buddy. We have walking through, certainly principals are already on this. They have been working with their reentry teams to get their buildings ready. And I also want to highlight nurses, the COVID point of contact, and our custodial staff have been amazing with being that leader and expert in what it takes to get the building ready. We have a small group of principals that are working on an implementation assessment that will help guide their assessment with their reentry teams. Of course, Deirdre and I will be doing walkthroughs and continue with that with our teams, but we really do want to empower reentry teams to keep the assessment going and making sure they're doing the corrections that they need as a staff to address it on the school site.
Can I follow up with one? So my other question, I'm not sure, Carletta, if this goes to you or Dr. Jenkins, but I'm curious about the average number of kindergartners that will be in a classroom together across the district tomorrow.
The average number when we're looking is around 10. So around 8 to 10 students is around the average.
Thank you so much, y'all.
I guess just a follow-up, how much, what's the max that we will have in a classroom?
The max is really dependent upon the spacing and the size of the classroom. So some of our classrooms have a max of 12 students, but some of our spaces are larger and they can have up to 15 and 16 students in a class.
Great, thank you. Okay, Chris, what was you?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo the celebratory nature of this and the excitement of getting our kindergartners into the buildings and welcoming them to our district in this way, and to the students that are also remaining virtually, just the transition this is going to be for them too. So grateful for all the work that has gone into this. My question is around the allocating the 2 subs per building, which I think is a great strategy. I'm just wondering if there might be some consideration of needing to adjust that to the buildings that are larger, that have more students in them, or the ones where more students are coming back in person.
Thank you. That's a great question. We started with the 2, and we are always ready what we've learned in this time, right? You always have to be ready to pivot. And so we are watching the numbers to see if there's any adjustments that need to be made, but we did start all buildings off with 2.
Thank you. And thanks for speaking to the planning that's continuing to go into bringing the 3rd to 5th, the middle schoolers and the high schoolers back. Also, I know there's been a lot of tension on the elementary, but having been on one of the walkthroughs last week and seeing the preparations happening at the middle schools, that was helpful to see too. And just to let everybody know that I know that the students and the families that are in those other grades, the 3 to 12th grade, are very anxious and eager to be able to start looking forward to a return date. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, Ananda, did you have something? Go ahead.
Collector, I'm sorry if you already responded that, you addressed that before. So first of all, wow. It's been a year since we closed and this day seemed like it was never gonna come. And there's so much that's happening around this day. It's great to see the real videos of teachers and making sure that they are keeping their spirits up for our students, and great creativity around the communication with parents too. So thank you so much to you, Colatra, to your team, and to all the educators they're supporting this huge endeavor to reopen. My question was sort of to follow up on some of the questions from my colleagues around the racial demographics of our students that are going to be coming back. I remember hearing a comment from one of my comrades noting that when we were virtual, her student who was white, along with their white peers, were the ones on Zoom, and their Black students or brown students or Hmong students were the ones on MMSD cares. I'm curious if you have a racial demographic or some sense of what are some of the trends that you're seeing, the students that are going to be in our building this week, if it's aligned to the school's demographics, or we are going to see inequities in those numbers.
That's a great question, Ananda, and I would have to get back with you as far as if it's aligned to the school demographics. I do know from the data that we received last week from the returning preference app that we do have a large percentage of our students of color that will be returning in person. And so I know that that was a little different than original thoughts of who was returning when we looked at surrounding districts and other places throughout the US of who was returning to school. But our demographics did not show that. We have about 65% of our African-American students will be returning in person, 37% of our Asian students, 60% of our Hispanic and Latino students. And so, but again, I can get those numbers to you as it relates to the schools. I don't have those today though.
And then white students, what's the percentage?
The white students, 68% are returning in person. And that's for all students, that's not by grade level, but we can get you the breakdown of grade level as well.
Yeah, I'm just curious how we at times, unintentionally miss an opportunity to take a look at this. And I honestly don't know what the solution, even if we, this theory do prove to be what's going to continue to happen. I don't necessarily know how to address that in a way that will be, humane and rooted in the needs of all students. But I think it's something for us to consider and be mindful of moving forward. But thank you again for so much. I didn't mean to throw you
No, not at all. And I think so. The Deputy Chief, Chelsea Tubbs, is on the call, and she's worked really closely with the RPO department and with the Returning Preference app for data. And so Chelsea, are you still on?
Can we just turn it over to Dr. Jenkins here?
Okay.
And then we'll go to Chelsea.
Actually, Ananda, that was a great question. And we had great concern about that early on, because not only did we do the parent engagement Facebook Live, but also over winter break, we went out and had conversations with our families, particularly like African Americans, Latinx, and Hmong families, and those numbers at 37%. What you see there was about what they shared, even if we open up, because they have more multi-generational homes. And so they said that they were going to stay home. So that 37% did not shock me at all. But in terms of trying to make sure that we are addressing the equity issue though. So yes, we're excited about our kindergartners coming back, but we also put a lot of emphasis on our students who are still on virtual, because we have to make sure, just as we had talked earlier about some of the internet not necessarily being consistent as it needs to be, that's where some of those equity issues come in. And we've been working to try to correct those situations. But in a lot of families, we talked to the African-American families, we're seeing more than projected actually come back in the African-American community. And I would also say the same thing in the Latinx community. But that's a problem we're gonna have to continue to wrestle with during COVID and after COVID to make sure we're reaching our students who have the greatest challenges, our students and families. But Chelsea Tubbs, which leads into this, she and Bree both were out there working and trying to connect with families, and so she could talk a little bit more about that as well.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Chelsea?
Good evening, everyone. I would add that we're seeing the same breakdown between Title and non-Title I schools when we think about all the qualifiers and demographics of our student population. And so we did give the numbers per school for the amount in person, both for kindergarten and for all grades. And even within our top 10, it is evenly split when you think of the demographics of our schools.
Thank you.
Two things. One, excellent job. I think we did better than Atlanta in that Can't Touch Me video. I think ours is about 10 times better than theirs. Sorry, but I do. Especially the pumpkin dancing. You had me on the pumpkin. But the other thing I'm just interested in is recess and how, no offense, I don't know how to manage 5-year-olds on a playground to make sure they social distance. I'm not sure how one does that, and do we have a plan when they don't?
So we are doing that to the best of our ability, right? They're going to be with their classroom sections out at recess. And so it won't be a recess in the traditional sense that we know it when all of the kids are out and they're all intermingling together. They'll have specific areas of the playground that they will be assigned to as they're outside playing with their classmates from their particular class. And so it'll be a lot of practicing, a lot of reinforcing of expectations, but again, a lot of practicing, but also just a lot of fun and making sure that kids are still able to be kids, but we're doing it in a safe way.
Yeah, I want them to enjoy themselves. Please don't get me wrong. I don't want to get rid of recess. I don't have kids, and I wanted to make sure that we took full advantage of knowing how to do that. And it's helpful to know that they won't be with the large group, they'll be with their class. It's really helpful to know. I'm good.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Great. Thank you, Claudia, for all your work in the team. We're really excited for tomorrow. And you know, each board member is assigned at elementary school, so maybe if you have some time, we can stop by and visit the school and say hi.
That'd be great. And I know that our time is up, but I just really want to say, when we think about where we started from last year and where we are now, it's just a lot, again, of tremendous work and gratitude for our teachers, our support staff, what we've been able to learn from MSCR, our leaders, our nurses, our custodians, and getting us to the point that we are right now to be able to reopen tomorrow. And then also our parents with their partnership in working with us to make sure this can happen. So I just want to, again, just thank our staff for the work that they have done in ensuring that we are able to reopen with our kindergartners tomorrow. And again, we're excited. We look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. We look forward to seeing board members. And so again, we're ready and we're excited, and this is it's gonna be a great day. So thank you.
Thank you. Nikki?
Can I ask Dr. Jenkins a question?
Sure.
Will it throw off the count and security, safety-wise, if board members show up tomorrow, PPE-wise, and can schools handle that?
Yeah, we're gonna be fine. We'll be socially distanced even when you enter the building. We're gonna have people there. You guys will be fine. In fact, the buildings are excited about the potential. I was
Perfect.
out today and they're really excited to look at the people that come in, but they know we all have to be socially distanced. And I would say to all the board members, when you first see people, you're gonna wanna go close. I'm guilty. I almost did it today, but I had to stop. So please go.
All right, okay, let's go ahead and adjourn the special board of education meeting, local session workshop. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Nikki, second. Julia, your advisory role, are you still in?
Yep, aye.
Aye. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned and then we'll start operations.